Hey guys, Brendan Roberts here. For anyone who's already listened to an episode of this podcast, you've probably realized that I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and this is a town of history. It's a big tourist destination, and for somebody who's lived here for a long time, one of my favorite things is to discover new places. So I'm really pleased to announce that a few days ago, I discovered a hidden gem here in town, and today they're going to be a co-sponsor of this episode. So, Rose, tell me about your shop.
Yeah, my shop is called The Crow's Nest. It's an oddities and curiosities shop. We feature items of the strange and extraterrestrial variety, as well as everyday spiritual delights such as tarot cards, crystals, and so much more. We aim to support artists both locally and worldwide who specialize in the weird, wild, and spooky. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the one who has everything, at The Crow's Nest we have all sorts of knickknacks, trinkets, novelties, and gewgaws.
Do you have a favorite oddity in your shop?
Bad taxidermy. Bad taxidermy is always the best taxidermy.
What is bad taxidermy?
Bad taxidermy is exactly what it says. It's taxidermy, but it ain't great. Do you like weird things? Find our shop on Instagram at The Crow's Nest Oddities. We do have an online store. It's on our website, which is also The Crow's Nest Oddities. You'll just push the shop button and feel free to explore our catalog.
Hey guys, welcome. So today's episode is going to be another two-part interview, kind of focusing around film festivals. Now, both of our guests have worked at pretty prestigious film festivals, and though we're not going to get into the intricacies of film festivals, it's certainly going to be one of our topics. So our first guest today is Johnmark Sibley Jr. He works at the Crested Butte Film Festival as a programmer, and he's a self-described sore toe in the system there. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about his experience, the film festival, and what it's like to also have to watch 450 movies a year for submissions. For some of you who don't know Crested Butte, it's a beautiful ski town located in Colorado. And just a note, we recorded these a little while ago, so some of the details about personnel and the film festival might be slightly outdated. But I do encourage anyone who's interested to please, you can reach out to submit your films to the festival, or you can email johnmark at cbfilmfest.org. And then secondly, the second guest is Mike Timm, who is a former member. I'm not really exactly sure. You're going to have to listen to find out. But he worked at Sundance, located in another beautiful ski town, as far as I think it's still located, at Park City, Utah. And then he also works at Universal Studios. So he kind of has both the producer side and, well, you'll figure it out. Listen to the episode. Check it out. Here we go. Launch it. Boom! It's a program for filmmakers by filmmakers. It's the Breaking Indie Podcast.
So without further ado, once again, we are here at the Santa Fe Film Festival. This is Breaking Indie, a film podcast about film for filmmakers and by filmmakers. And we have an awesome guest here today who we met here at this festival, who actually represents another festival. So please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Crested Butte.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. My name's Johnmark Sibley Jr. and I work, like you said, with a film festival in Colorado. It's the Crested Butte Film Fest. It's had a very long history, and it's evolved quite a bit over the past 2 decades. We used to be primarily a shorts festival, and it was called the CB Reels Fest. And then in 2010, we changed up our leadership, and it just started evolving and growing. And now we accept films of every genre from every nation, all over the world. And yeah, it's grown quite a bit.
I think that was the year that I went, was 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
It was right after I got out of college, and I was working on Paul, the movie Paul, and my buddy was like, dude, you want to go to Crested Butte? And I was like, where is that? He's like, Colorado, we should go. It's a film festival, and I got us tickets. And I was like, well, then yes. And I still, like, that was many years ago, but I remember that town. It's like a ski town, right?
Total. It's actually not just a ski town. It's a resort community, but People know it for skiing. We were voted the #1 ski town in North America about 4 years in a row by PAL Magazine.
Wow, that's
And but a little bit lesser known is our summer sports. Where actually Crested Butte is where mountain biking is supposedly invented. And there's one other town that combats us on that, and they argue.
Is this in Colorado?
In Colorado. The trick is, though, there's a difference between an origin and the founding, because there are people who can have an idea somewhere, but Crested Butte is where the original mountain biking club started.
And what is it remind me what season you guys normally are, because I feel like people were doing that because you can take the chairlift up, right, and then mountain back down the mountain.
Yeah, the festival takes place in the fall, and that's right around when we have our mountain bike week. It's an entire week of festivities where we have multiple different races. One of which is the chainless race, which you go to the top of a mountain pass, and with bikes that don't have any chains. And in the past,
You're just riding the brakes.
Well, in the past, they didn't even have brakes. That was the trick.
God.
You just pick your feet up and you just bomb it down. In recent years, because they have to be a little bit more, what's the word?
Insurance?
Safe.
Liability.
Liability. Things have gotten a little bit more proper. It's less of a hippie town than it used to be. But now they have brakes, but still we have the chainless race. And all of that's going on during the festival. So the people who come to visit, and it's their first time in the valley, they get to witness all these incredible things going on that don't even have to do with the film. And that's what I tell people. When they come to Crested Butte for the festival, they may be there to watch movies. They'll see some awesome movies. They'll meet awesome people. That's not what they're going to fall in love with. They're going to fall in love with the valley, because it is the closest you could ever come to one of those idyllic European Alps villages. Like, it's incredible. You're in a bowl. You're in a soup bowl surrounded by mountains with a singular mountain in the middle just jutting out.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So once again, what's your role for the film festival?
So, currently I'm the head of submissions and the coordinator of the screening committee. Now, I work hand in hand with Michael, who is one of our festival presidents. He and the other president, Louise, I actually met them through my volunteer work, which I've always gone to the festival. I've born and raised in Crested Butte, so I've been going to it since I was a kid, before it was even what it is now. And a few years ago, I made a point of involving myself because I had this itch that I wanted someone who was a born and raised local to be in the actual leadership of the festival. I felt that was necessary. We have a board, and they're all locals, but everyone who runs the festival are from the Front Range. And that's great. They've done an amazing job, and they have evolved the festival into what it is now. But I wanted to work with them. I want to be involved in the process and be there hand in hand with everyone who's in charge. So I started volunteering as much as I could. Every event, every fundraiser, every screening, I would be there, and I sort of became a pillar. Not a pillar, that's a little bit too presumptuous. A sore toe. Just in the middle of the entire event, because as sociable as I like to think I am, until I start talking, I tend to be the oaf who's just standing there, you know? And so I made a point of doing everything I could for them, because I figured 90% of opportunity is just being there when they need someone to fill a role.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
You know? Because the current president, Louise, she was just in charge of managing certain events. But then after COVID happened, all of the leadership for the festival just dropped off because, for various different reasons. And Louise was the only one left. So Michael approached her and said, "Oh, guys, you want to be the head?" And she has, under her leadership, the Crested Butte Film Fest hasn't just recovered from the time of the pandemic. It's thrived, and it even thrived during the pandemic because of her, because she instituted virtual screenings for our festival, which was a fad for a little while. And I mainly got involved through her, and I started volunteering very closely and working with her, and she eventually asked me if I would fill the role of head of submissions, because she knew my ambition was to have a permanent role in the team. And it was the only opening at the time, and for my purposes, it was perfect, because I prefer the movies, I prefer the films, rather than putting the events together. I still do all that, but I get to watch hundreds of films every year because of what I do now, and I love it.
Awesome.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
I watched 480 films this year.
oh my gosh. Well, you have to love it to be able to do that and, have the passion for it. And I think it's, it speaks to this idea of just, showing up and how important that is. And, I guess there's a fine line because people can be a little bit hey man, put me on, make me, I want to be the head of submissions, versus just being like, I'm here, whatever you need. I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about this town, this film festival. And then, you're there.
That was exactly how it was, because when I was finishing up my time in college, I wasn't obsessed, but I was very much fretting over the concept of what do I do next.
Sure.
Because all throughout college I was making my own films, and it's great. The very small school that I was a part of had a very small film department. I mean, you couldn't major in film. You could only minor in film studies. And I made so many films in college, but after I was finishing up, I was worried, what am I going to do next? How am I going to turn this experience I've had into not necessarily a career because I'm still young, but how do I get my foot in the door? And since I was already working with the festival, I tend to overthink things too much, and my circle of friends around me, they encouraged me to dive deeper into the festival. Maybe it would give me the exposure I need, or maybe it would just introduce me to someone I would work with. And that's really how I dove into it. And I approached Louise and I told her that I want to be a part of the team. I'm a volunteer. I get a little name tag at every festival, but I want to be on the website. I want to be one of the main group of people so that I could work specifically with these 4 incredible people who are running the festival now.
Yeah, and if nothing else, you get a lot of free movies out of the deal.
Exactly. And a couple of the films that I actually worked on over the past couple of years, they were submitted, and each one I had to, abstain myself from being in the judgment
That is
for.
funny how that goes.
But it's really fun to see that, and for them to call me and go, hey, were you a PA or were you a cameraman for this film? I was like, yeah, I do what I can, and that's sort of how I've been approaching it. I just want to work. I just want to do things and be a part of the magic that is making film.
We were slotted with a film today that I kind of forgot. Apparently, I was labeled as an associate producer on it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, that's right. And I didn't actually do anything but let them use my camera for the week. So I was like, a friend from college. I was like,
special thanks.
Yeah, I was like, dude, yeah, you can give you can take my camera, but you got to give me some credit. And so we went in there, and I was like, oh, I'm an associate producer of this movie. Yeah, so
Executive produced, directed, and created by Brendan.
But yeah, it is one of those things, right? You have a little bit of a hand in these things, and then people it's a community of things, come to.
It really is. It takes a village.
It takes a village, right? Yeah. And then what I loved about your festival too, when I was there, and I'm really struggling to remember the name of this because it's been so long ago, there was a documentary about global warming that blew my freaking socks off. Yeah. And the filmmakers were there. And I was just so in awe of what they did, because in the film, they went to, I don't know if it was Antarctica, I think, and set up cameras for months. And they knew that this big chunk of ice
was going to break.
So
they're like, we need to see it.
It was the size of Manhattan.
Oh, yeah, I remember when that broke off.
The chunk of ice was the size of Manhattan. And they filmed it.
Yeah.
And the footage at this showing was insane. And I was like, so cool to see this. And let alone then to be able to talk to the filmmakers about it. It was really extraordinary.
And that's what's amazing about film festivals to me, is because, we engage with film and we engage with various, media outlets of film. And oftentimes, it's a very, you're engaging with the content, watching it, you're having your own opinion about it, you're maybe talking to some friends about it. But what film festivals are so amazing is, and it's a gamut, right? It's people that are just starting out, people that are, maybe in the middle of their career, and then really large people, and it's there's an energy where you get to kind of have a two-way conversation rather than just have your own thoughts about it. That leads me into my maybe comment or question about, just the idea in general of film festivals. What do you think, and let's just talk about it, like what do you think is probably one of your major, what do you think film festivals are so valuable for?
Well,
Can we pause? Sorry.
oh, yeah. Well, so obviously as artists, we all love to have our films viewed and we all love to get recognition for our work. But in the end, I view so much of the value in film festivals as being an education for the people who attend it, because it provides a forum for people to release their own work. But for everyone who's there to not just watch movies, but to meet people and to expand not only their network, but their skill set, a festival is so valuable in that you go there, and before you know it, you can't help but expand your horizons. I mean, just from having one conversation with someone at an after party or the big picture of all the people you've met, whether you get a job or just meet someone, you expand your horizon and you expand your perspective. And that's the way I treat festivals when I go to them. I try to go into them realizing that we all feel like we know a lot. We all feel like, okay, I know movies, I know what's good, yeah.
Right.
But if you go into there accepting the fact, I know a lot, but I really know nothing compared to the big scope of everything that film can be, everything you can use to make a good film, all the techniques. It really boils down to the experience. And it's sort of like with college, people like, yeah, you can learn a lot from college, but you get a social experiance out of it that's invaluable.
Sure.
And that's what I get out of film festivals. And in Crested Butte, it's such a privilege to get to meet people because, they love the Valley, and like I said, that's a huge part of it, but it's so much of a community and that filmmakers are gathering together and sharing their collective experiences. You can take a little bit from each person that you meet, and it'll improve everything about how you make a movie, or how you write, or even if you're, a member of the crew. It just provides you with that new perspective, and that's what I see as the value.
Definitely.
And you are a filmmaker yourself.
Yes, I am a filmmaker. I made films throughout college, as most people who studied film did. But when I got out, I was really obsessed with the idea of I have to make something that's my creative vision. And I dove right into it, and I made a film with a colleague of mine that I went to school with, and it was the most valuable experience that I had up to that point. And I learned more than I ever could in any of my classes, because when I took classes at school, and I feel like this is something that a lot of people experience, you already have the ideas in your head and you already have the concepts in your head. You just don't have the terminology connected to it. So they'll tell you what it is, but you're like, oh, I've been thinking about that every time I watch a movie.
Right.
So I didn't necessarily learn all these new elaborate ways to make a film when I was learning about film in college. The way I learned how to make a film was when I dove into it with no idea what I was doing, forcing myself to do everything I could to make it happen. There were mistakes made, there were triumphs, but in the end, I had a better understanding about making a movie than I did out of all the several years that I spent in college.
Yeah, it's a really interesting industry because it's a really, you just learn by doing.
Yes.
And you learn by failing. And
You
learn by
learn
making
most by
mistakes.
failing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Can you share with us some of the lessons you learned and some of your failures?
Well, I think one of the most valuable lessons I learned is that you need to learn how to separate yourself, particularly if you're a director or if you're in the actual, if you have creative control over what's going on. It's fine if you put on multiple hats, but at some point you have to separate yourself from a certain department and allow the people that you've entrusted with this job to sort of run with the concept you've given them. Obviously, you want to sort of monitor how the creative process happens, make sure that nothing gets lost. But there were a number of people who worked with me. Most of my crew dropped out of my first film, and I had to wear multiple hats. But the people who stayed, I had to develop a trust with, where I would let them. I gave them the idea that I had the concept, the vision, and I let them sort of run and do what I what I had to convince myself they could do. You know, it's always hard to relinquish control of things, but in the end, one of the most valuable lessons I learned was to trust people and their vision, and at least allow them to contribute, try to explain that vision to me. Every single suggestion made on set is valuable, even if it's not used. And that's the way I sort of approach filmmaking, because there's so many people who, it's their vision, they know how it needs to look. Put your phones in this Tupperware bin and you're not gonna you're gonna do what I say. And that's fine if you are that good. But generally, if you don't encourage the people around you to be creative and to contribute, your film ends up being limited in a way. And I started out a little bit more rigid when I made my film, and it showed in the footage. And I eventually started taking on more ideas from the people around me. Not just the crew, but the cast too. After they got to know the characters, after a little while, they started to contribute ideas about their personalities and how they would react to certain things. And it became so apparent to me how valuable allowing the people who work on your film to contribute to the vision in even a small way, how valuable that can be. It changed the actual outlook of my film, and I would argue it's the reason the audience enjoyed my film as much as they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because so many of us, I mean, we have such a very specific taste.
Yes.
And we have such a very specific goal, really, with whatever our vision is. We see it in our mind's eye in such a very specific way. So it's scary. It's very scary to entrust that to someone else because, you know, obviously, you know, that in your mind, you don't know your vision in the same way that you do. And I think it speaks to really what, at the end of the day, film is, right? It's a collaborative medium, but it's getting everybody kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
And it's like we're a part of a team, but we all have to agree that this is the story that we're making. And I want to know your vision and I want you to help me with that. But at the same time, let's all just get on the same page.
Yeah.
Exactly. Establish a baseline.
Yeah.
And then you can expound where it benefits the film.
Right.
And speaking of keeping almost like a shorthand, or keeping the crew happy, or keeping a trust with along different taste, what is your favorite crafty snack?
Okay, well, the Crested Butte Film Fest, we always offer Bobos.
Bobos?
Yeah, it's like a little granola bar, but it has different flavors. It has like a layer of not cream, but like a layer of I guess dried cream. It's almost like those old. It's like that. It's like a yogurt. They have different flavors. And Bobo bars, they are really good. I would say they're a combination between granola and a Cliff Bar.
Okay.
And
I'll go to the film festival just to try Bobo.
Yes, you will enjoy them. We have boxes and boxes of them, and as a venue manager, I'm always having to replace and restock it, and they fly off the shelves. So when I was making the film, I approached some people I knew at the film fest, because I was originally intending to submit it. This was before I actually had a position at the festival. And they were like, hey, we want to help you however we can. And they gave me 4 boxes of these Bobos, like 500 of them. So every day on set, because I told these actors I hired them from the Front Range, and I live way up in the mountains. So I had to shuttle them up there, provide lodging, all of the package. And I told them, we're obviously going to provide you guys meals, but when we're out on site, I filmed a Western, so we're in the middle of nowhere. And I sourced the locations from local ranchers, so we are really miles away from even a road. And so I told them, you guys are just going to have to accept that we got your food, but they're bars. They're like snack food, and they were complete troopers. And as it turns out, they were completely won over by the Bobos. Yeah.
Won over by the Bobos?
Won over by the Bobos.
So is that a Colorado thing, or Bobos?
I think it might be. It might be a Boulder company.
Okay, because I've never heard of them.
They're one of our sponsors. Them, Yeti, and Patagonia are 3 sponsors that are almost repeat sponsors. I think Patagonia is new, but Yeti's always giving us cool stuff.
Right. Well, there you have it, folks. Bobos, if you want to save some money, go out and apparently they're good enough to where
You'll buy over your crew.
You'll buy over your crew.
An actor won't complain about a Bobo. That's
Well, you got to keep them fed, keep them happy.
keep them happy. Yeah, you got to keep the talent happy.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, man. We'll have to. Can we come do this, the Crested Butte?
Please, we would absolutely love to host you. And we are from September 18th through, I believe, the 24th. And every single year, it's right around the same time. It's at the end of September. Sometimes it's the very end of September and the start of October. But this year, it's the 18th through the 24th. We love hosting people, and especially people who have never seen the Valley before. Because as I said, we love it.
So
yeah.
Well, I'd love to go back then. Thank you
I'm
so
excited.
much.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll welcome you guys.
Sweet. Thank you so much. This was great. Once again, this is Breaking Indie, another great episode. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Check out the Crested Butte Film
Check
Fest.
out the Crested Butte Film Fest.
And now, part 2.
This episode is sponsored in part by Santa Fe Improv, an educational nonprofit based locally here in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yes, and?
Santa Fe Improv has classes for adults and at their Black Box Theater, educating players at all levels of the craft of comedy improv.
Yes, and?
And they put on shows regularly that you don't want to miss. So visit santafeimprov.org to get the latest updates on shows, classes, and community events.
Yes!
santafeimprov.org. Hey guys, welcome to the Breaking Indie Studio. We are once again introducing an interview at the Santa Fe Film Festival, this time with Timm. Mike had a short, again, the same shorts block that we had, also shot in New Mexico, which was really cool to see. Great film, but Mike specifically talks more about, yes, having a career in narrative film, but really maintaining a full-time job at Universal Studios that isn't necessarily in the directing and writing, of narrative. So it's really interesting to kind of see his take on having a full-time job that exists separately from your actual creative, process and production company. So
he also has a very fantastic journey about how he got involved with the Sundance Film Festival. So yeah, it's definitely
cool.
worth a listen.
This is a good one.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to Breaking Indie. As we all know, this is an independent podcast about independent film for filmmakers by filmmakers. Once again, we are here at the Santa Fe Film Festival talking to some of the awesome filmmakers and attendees, learning some really cool lessons and hearing a few fun stories. Along with us today is a really cool guest who also has a film in the festival, but has, from what we just found out, some pretty cool stories about working in festivals himself. So, please.
Mike and Timm, hello. I am here at the Santa Fe Film Festival. Thank you guys for just including me in on this. It's always fun to talk to other filmmakers. Everybody has their own stories. As I say, yeah, on the screen, but there's the stories off the screen, which is like incredibly more adventurous and more interesting most of the time. Sometimes not for the best, but it happens. But no, Valley Heart's Delight is a film that it's playing I premiered it, 2 nights ago at the Santa Fe Film Festival. So it's cool. I did shoot it in Albuquerque. I don't live in New Mexico, but the story is a New Mexico story, and I knew that when we wrote it, it's based on a real life event of someone breaking down the desert in 1997, 17 years old, going out to Silicon Valley to start an internet company. Who would be doing that in the 1997 mark? And that's the thing. So he breaks down and just reconsiders what he's doing. As is he crazy? What the hell is that? Especially at 17 years old. So I wrote the script around that and just said, all right, we have to shoot it in New Mexico. You could have shot it in Palmdale, whatever.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't have had the flavor.
Twist to it.
Right.
But it wasn't the twist I expected.
Right. No.
I was expecting him to be at the end and it's like, well, what's your name? And he's like, John.
Right.
Hertz.
Boom.
Right. Like, oh, he's selling cars on the internet.
Right,
That's how Hertz Enterprises. Yeah, so
Right.
whatever it is.
There you go.
But no, we watched the
Yeah.
film, and it is
Twice.
Twice.
At least
We watched
twice.
it twice. At least twice.
Right. Cool.
But yeah, no, there's a little twist to it. I won't give that away.
Right.
But I was a little surprised that to learn that you are a New Mexico filmmaker
No.
because it does check a lot of like the new classic New Mexico film boxes.
Right.
And the gas station that you guys shot at is a Zia Pueblo?
The Zia Pueblo, yeah, Big Chief gas
Big
station.
Chief gas
Yeah,
station.
it's an iconic place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I did 2 movies where we shot there.
Wow.
And every time I see it pop up, I'm like,
Yeah.
Big
There
Chief.
you go.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, but no, it's gorgeous. You guys did a really good
Yeah,
job of
cool.
and utilizing the essence of that place and
Right.
kind of working with
Right.
what's actually there.
Right, because there's not a lot there.
Yeah.
It's not a working gas station, so it's like,
Yeah.
you know, what is it? And that's like, oh, okay. I mean, in my script, there were supposed to be, you know, gas, like, pumps and everything. It's really like, where can we get gas pumps? Do I have to cart them in from LA and put them there or whatever? And then after a while, I'm like, we don't need any of that stuff. We gotta let go. You gotta let go of that stuff and let this location just be what it is and not try to explain it. Just let it be, and they're gonna be focused on the characters.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's it. And nobody even noticed it. It's like, nobody even notices.
I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
his car
right,
broke down and he needs to
right,
pull over and
right.
assess the situation, you know.
Right.
And it's so funny, we get so precious
Right.
often about certain things, and no, they're not, you know,
Right.
they're not going to get it
Right.
and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes
Yeah.
through because
Right.
he's
Right.
experiencing something.
Right, and that's where when filmmaking, you know, my dad was a saxophone player, and I grew up in New York City, and not in like Manhattan, but when you say you're from New York City, for me, maybe I'm a snob, but coming from Queens, that's New York City, the 5 boroughs, right? So you just start coming in, well, you know, going from Brooklyn or Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, you know, Staten Island, which we drive through Staten Island. But anyway, sorry. But my dad was a saxophone player, so I grew up on jazz, and you know, Duke Ellington always had a saying: "Don't play what's there, play what's not there." And sometimes you got to play what's not there. As a writer, as a director, as a producer, you got to just play what's not there. Well, pumps. All right, we're playing that.
Yeah.
Because guess what? We're not dragging in anything we got other things to think about to actually get this made. You know, so that was kind of like one of the challenges of that location. But going back to New Mexico and the location and that spirit, that alone, the spirit of that loneliness and just that location, that's on the screen. And that has nothing to do with the main character, you know, or anybody. And that's the thing. That's why that spirit of New Mexico is just on the screen. It's just like, it's a little, I didn't expect it until we shot it. And I'm like, oh, this
It's
is
like
kind of
the
trippy.
location is a character
Right.
in the movie.
Yeah, right. Oh my God.
Well, that's similar to you know, what we shot too. Is
Yeah.
you know, in Diablo Canyon out here
Right.
in New Mexico, and he showed me, you know, this location, and you know, you kind of, I mean, I don't necessarily say, okay, find a location and base a movie around it, but at the same time, you know, you have to use the resources you have too.
Right.
And so it's really interesting when you can be inspired in a way specifically by a location, but again, you're looking at something, nothing's there yet.
Right.
You are playing what's not
Right.
there right then, and you're
Right.
imagining
Right.
what your story could possibly be.
Right.
So yeah, that's well
Yeah.
said. That's awesome.
So
Great
there
quote.
you go. You know.
So one of the questions we ask everybody
Right.
who comes in here, breaking indie podcast, how did you break into the industry? So I'm curious, you know, what your origin story is into the film world.
Oh God. Okay, origin story. So I did go to film school. I went to school at Rochester Institute of Technology in snowy Rochester, New York. So I went there, a very primitive school. Went in the late 80s. They had definitely people coming up through there. But the thing about it, I got into NYU, but the reason why I didn't go to NYU is because my mom said, well, you can go, but you've got to live at home. I was like, oh, no, I'm out of here. Like, I got to go see the world. I'm like, what? Youngest of 5 kids, and I'm just like, I gotta break loose, whatever. So Rochester after school, then it was basically the summer of '95. I was still living in Rochester. I said, I don't know where I'm gonna go. But then at that time, the Sundance Film Festival was just really picking up steam. Before that, I did I did do a little stint. I was going to the IFFM, the Independent Feature Film Market that became independent, IFP became the
It's like
IFP.
the whole
So
film.
I was at the IFFM in '94, and I was screening. I screened a couple of my student films for some producers, and they paid me to go to it just to scout, just to see actors, see what's out there. And then that's the IFFM that I saw the first public screening of Clerks after it was bought at Miramax, and then whatever, that's like, the Clerks thing, and like, did you really go to film school? Yeah, I know it sucks, but people like it. But the thing is, I was looking at like the Sundance Film Festival. I was like, I don't want to go to LA, I want to go to San Francisco. So let me go to San Francisco. A lot of college friends are going there. On my way though, I was like, well, I don't know when the Sundance Film Festival is. So I wrote them a letter. There's no email then. I didn't have email. 95. I just wrote them a letter. I got to my friend's place in Boulder, Colorado. I had friends that lived in Salt Lake City. Got to Boulder, Colorado. My friends in Salt Lake are like, Mike, Sundance is looking for you. I'm like, what? Like, they're looking for you. I called them up. They're like, hey, we got your letter. We want to interview you for a job. I'm like, well, this is like, August. And they're like, the Sundance Film Festival is in January, but we have a job for you. I'm like, okay, like, cool. Like, just, would you want to come in and interview and whatever else? I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to be in Boulder, and then I'll fly in a week later. So that's what I did. It was great. I walked in, and I was in New York City mode, jacking into, like, just suit. And everybody else, like, now I'm like this New York City kid in the middle of the West. Everybody's just T-shirts or whatever. But I got the job, and I started working for the Institute. So I basically then worked for the Institute. I lived in Salt Lake City and worked for Redford and the Institute for those 3 years. Ran press screening room, ran like the information booth, ran like all sorts of things. Worked at the Screenwriters Lab, assisted those, Filmmakers Lab, assisted those. And it was a whirlwind. But between all that, I also was living in Salt Lake City that just started to have this like independent, but also feature and TV, kind of industry going. Touched by an Angel. All these different movies were starting to shoot there. So they had, Otto Nemetz, Camera Rental House. They had, Red Man Movies was a big, moving pictures, 2 big grip houses. So there was things, Alpha Cine had a satellite office there. So while I was working at Sundance, I met, this producer, Trish Wesson, who was producing commercials, and I was like, I just want to be a PA in between the things I was doing for Sundance. She's like, well, have you ever written commercials? I'm like, no, but how hard can it be? Like, just show me what to do. Like, show me what a script looks like. So she showed me. I started writing commercials, started directing local commercials with her, and she just produced all them. It was great. And then just through the grapevine, though, because of that independent scene there, everybody was working and doing their jobs, but nobody was like, I'm a director, or I'm gonna make a short film, or I'm gonna do whatever. And then I had this producer, Timm Nelson, may he rest in peace. He had I swear to God, 30,000 feet of 35 millimeter film underneath this bed. And he just said, I did a favor for him. He's like, Mike, here's all the film. I can't do anything with it because I can't shoot it for commercial. I don't know what it looks like. Short ends, some of them were just full, just 30,000 feet. I was like, oh my God.
Rad.
So I was like, so therefore, I was like, I had all this film. And then I called up a buddy of mine who I did he's the one of the producers at Jason Mark. He became a creative partner of mine later on. And he's like, I'll pay for the basically to process it and when to develop it. I was like, okay, so I've got the film. I know I have the money to develop it. And then I went to Mike Black, right, who's a DP there. He worked at R&MS. I'm like, well, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to a guy that's got access to equipment. So I'm like, okay, guys, I had the meeting. I'm like, I wrote this script. I've got the film. I could do the post-production. I just need to get this shot. And he's like, all right. I'm like, you can be the DP. I just need R&MS equipment. So we got all free 35 millimeter equipment. We got grip equipment because Judd Hillman, he came in, he was the gaffer. And then the thing was, it took somebody just gathering everyone together to say, this is what we're going to do. And that's all. They were like, yeah, let's go do it.
And that's called a producer.
And that's called a producer. And that's the thing. So it's all about the resources, but not being afraid to go and find those resources, but also allow people to step up, right? Step up into those roles, to be the gaffer, not just, and they were camera assistant, to be the DP, and say, I have 35 millimeter film. And he's like, well, I've got some 35 millimeter film too. I'm like, how much you got? He's like, I've got 3,000 feet. I'm like, I got 30,000. He's like, oh, well, okay. I was like, so I only used half of it. We shot one film. It was great. One festival circuit, everything else was awesome. It brought everybody back to Long Island, where we do the Long Island Film Festival, did that. And then I did another one about 2 years later. And all this I'm doing Sundance during the winter and whatever. So those like 3 years-ish of being in Salt Lake were just like, that was my graduate school of working in the film labs, shooting my short films on 35 millimeter. I didn't know what I was doing. The acting, some of it was really great. Sean Nottingham, who's still in Salt Lake, he's like one of the best actors you'll ever get in your life. It's just like, but then he was surrounded by, some good actors that were just kind of trying and whatever. You learn by your mistakes, where there was this one actor who I knew I should have recasted before we shot. And I even auditioned somebody else, and I was like, he would have been awesome. And I didn't do it because I went with some other guys who were helping me produce. They're like, no, let's go with this guy. I didn't go with my gut. And I was like, no, I want to be collaborative, even though it definitely, I think, as a creative, it didn't do it justice. So sometimes you gotta just go with your gut. And then I should have known, but I didn't know at that time because I was still so young, on how to just say, okay, guys, we gotta regroup. And this is why. And I think you gotta do that on any film you ever do. You've got to not be afraid to say, I know I'm going to rock the boat, but just let me rock the boat for a minute. Even if we settle and we don't, whatever, but let me just rock the boat, and just as long as you know that you went for it, and you kind of just said, I've got to get the piece out. And that's what I learned on that one. Now, the thing is that Sundance taught me why to make movies. And I didn't, even though I did my shorts, I didn't really know on a bigger level how to make movies, right? And sell them and things like that. So that's why I went out to LA. And then I got involved in production. And then I got involved in production. I did everything. I mean, I did PAing to, of course, then production coordinating to, location scouting, location managing. Now that alone, if you ever want to be a producer, location scouting and location managing will teach you so much. I mean, a lot. I mean, it's creative, it's technical, it's logistics, it's mechanical, it's the organization of just the whole shoot itself, everything. I was a first AD, I did it all. And then I got married, started having kids, and then I was like, okay. But then one thing I did realize was, as soon as I got to LA and I started working in the industry, I ceased being a filmmaker. So once I moved to Hollywood, I stopped being a filmmaker.
And I think that's an experience that so many artists can attach to, right? Whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're a musician, a writer, a painter, the introspective nature of putting yourself in an unfamiliar place really is, like you said, like it really helps inform who you are, but it also makes you really observe the other.
Right.
And I think that's a beautiful thing about artists is we put ourselves in other people's shoes or try to look at the world perhaps a little outside yourself. Yeah. And that's really cool that you were able to balance such an awesome life and whole history and resume of film work, but to not also diminish the importance of developing your own personal connections to the world around you and having more to share than just telling a story, like telling a movie about movies,
And that's where people sometimes they fall into, and you can see it in their scripts, you can see their films.
You saw the script today
and whatever.
Where there's a short film and it's just like, all this writer knows are movies.
They just want to make a movie about that other movie. And all right, so anyway, to wrap it all up, then I was like, at one point, I'm like, okay, I got to start writing again. And then I did something. A friend of mine said, oh, I love your script. Somebody needs a rewrite. And they pay me to do a rewrite on their script. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And God, I forget this is embarrassing. I'm forgetting the name. It actually came out about 2 years ago. Was it Carl Elway's about these superheroes? Anyway, I forget.
Superhero.
Exactly. It's a superhero movie. And whatever, I don't know. But I totally have like this embarrassing. Anyway, but then after that, I just started getting rewrite jobs, one after another, adapting novels, whatever else. And then at the time, I was like, you know what? I want to start directing. Oh, I did make a feature film on $10,000 in 2010 to 12. It took 2 years to post-production, whatever, and wait. And it's called A Girl, a Guy, Space Helmet. And it's on Tubi. So A Girl, a Guy, Space Helmet's on Tubi. The actors are fantastic in it. The ensemble played the festival circuit. And to me, when I made it, I said, guys, the festival circuit is our distribution.
Yeah.
And that's it. I just want to finish it, get it out there. I'm not going to worry. If someone wants to pick it up, great, but I'm not going to worry about it. This was just to prove that I could direct a feature from A to Z and finish a feature from A to Z. Then after that, I started writing for people, and then I directed. Then I was like, all right, I got to direct again. And that's when I did the Basil Hoffman short film called Mr. Roberts. And Basil Hoffman, who was an icon, may rest in peace. That one was the way it came about, and this is all about, and I know I'm just talking.
That's what we want.
But
That's what
here,
we need.
this is about for filmmakers using their resources. So, my friend John Connor, who he shot now, he was DP on Jack Ryan. He shot Dahmer, that TV series Dahmer. He was camera operator on Maverick, whatever. At the time, he was doing a feature down the block of the high school, because my house is down the block from our high school. We live in Sunland, Tahunga. I don't know if you know where that is. But anyway, you're from LA.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, so we live up there, and it's a cool little out of the way, up on the mountains, the foothills of the mountains, whatever else.
Is this
And
off
just-
like the PCH or?
This is no. PCH is no. This is like the other way. This is on the mountains, Angeles Crest Forest,
Oh,
right
yeah.
there, sleepy little town.
Yeah.
And so we're right down the block from the high school. Actually, Paul Walker grew up there. All these different people that you're like, oh, cool. But anyway, John Connor, he and I met. We did a little trailer I did for a script. Didn't go anywhere. But he was shooting down the block, and he was living up in the hills of like Topanga. He's like, Mike, can I stay at your house? And I got divorced by this point, so my kids were going from my house to whatever, to my ex-wife's house, whatever back, but they lived in town. And he's like, can I just stay at your house? Well, I'm like, yeah, man, like we got like just your crew, whatever else, your camera guys, so people don't have to drive home at night. I said, okay, that's great. I said, but I'm like, but can we use the equipment from the feature? Can we use it to shoot a short film? But we'll just shoot it here at my house and here in town. He's like, yeah. I'm like, he's like, can I DP? I'm like, well, of course you can DP it. So, dude, got that. We got, the movie operator from them. We got all the equipment from the feature film, everything. We got all that for free. And now we're shooting, with an Arri Alexa, so there's no processing, whatever. But then again, I'm like, okay, now I got to edit it. But then we found an editor, and we shot it with Basil Hoffman. I cast it, produced it, did everything. I was like, I'll produce the whole thing. You just bring the crew and the camera, whatever. I helped him get some ACs that were working for free, because at the time, John Connor was also like, he's the first AC to Chivo who did The Revenant, whatever else. So he was already a legend in the camera working world. His father was camera operator on E.T. and all these other crazy movies. So people wanted to work with him.
Right, yeah.
And so it was a collaborative effort there. It was shot Mr. Roberts, got it done. I happened to meet my friend Darren Highness, who's a sound editor, mixer, designer, just so many things. He lived in town. He lives 5 blocks away from me. Oh, he's got a whole studio in his garage, whatever. We met at a local bar there. He did all the sound work, and it just became this thing of like, holy crap. And here I am still working at Universal, just putting it all together and just putting just great minds, Chris LeCorman, who's a music producer of films, music videos, putting people together just to create this thing. And that was amazing just to get that together. I was so fortunate to get that together, and that was 2-3 short films ago. And then I just started to do one after another, and just at least every year and a half I would do some sort of short film, putting it together in that way. So just, Mark Palmet shot the eyes for me. Not for me, but he's like, I want to shoot a short film. I'm a DP, I need something different. I'm like, okay, you get the camera, you get a few guys, I'll put this together. So you collaborate. If you find a deep, and he shot the shit out of it, and it's awesome. And it's a genre, crazy little like creature, feature, sci-fi, not a feature, but creature, sci-fi short that played the festival circuit. It actually, it premiered at Screenfest where Robin premiered Killer and all that. And that was great. And so that was a great journey. And in between, still writing for people, trying to not worried about getting a feature done or whatever. Raising my kids, making sure that was during COVID, and man, I have, my kids, I have kids, and I saw the effects that COVID had on kids, and it sucked.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and the whole country's still climbing out of it. Adults are still climbing out of it.
Yeah.
Everything, not just financially, but just mentally, everything. So that was just like, oh my God. But let me just go. Here's crazy. This is the other thing about people, knowing people, whatever. My buddy Jake, from film school, a couple years older than me. I always looked up to him. Boom. He was key grip on Lost. He was key grip on like Malcolm in the Middle. Key grip on Better Call Saul. He was moving to the area, to Albuquerque and everything. And I'm like, dude, I want to shoot out there. Who do you know? Oh, well, call my buddy Marshall. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll call Marshall. He's a DP. Yeah, he's a DP. Send him go. He's cool. So I call him up, send him the script. Marshall's like, yeah, man, this is really cool. I'll do it. I didn't know who Marshall was. And I'm like, all right, so I look at IMDb, shot all the Better Call Saul and everything else. I'm like, I call him back. I'm like, you asshole. You didn't tell me. He's like, oh, why didn't you tell me? He's like, oh, I don't know. But I told him. I'm like, why would you do this? And he's like, because I just want to help people. He's like, I've been there. He's like, we're all the ones, no matter how successful somebody is, they've all had their time trying to climb that mountain.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to just get back and help. And just between everybody, we just got it together. Heather Schrankengoster lives in Albuquerque. She helped produce it. She was amazing. Just so many people brought it together, and just so many supportive people in Albuquerque.
No. I do have to ask though, after so many films, is it safe to say you used the other 15,000 feet of 35 mil?
I shot two short films. They were both paid for by other people to process and everything else.
Yeah.
Still the same, Otto Nemes helped and just everything, So but I shot it all. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and what you're saying though in this, everything you were talking about kind of has this kind of running theme, which is people helping each other, right? But it's like you said it many times. Is like you've had these various people in the industry that you've had a relationship with in some way or another, and I've heard it, you say it multiple times, is, dude, I just want to shoot something.
Right.
I just want to do this.
Right.
Yeah, I'm, the AC, or I'm the camera operator on this friggin' huge thing.
Right.
But dude, I want to shoot that. I want to do that. And I think, it's, yes, you have to make those relationships and you have to foster those relationships. But it's also really realizing that we all do this because we love to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me sometimes it's hard to ask for help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's different when you instead of asking for somebody to do you a favor, or can you give me this? I'm putting them out. You're like, let's do this together because we love to do it.
Right.
And it's that energy and that spirit, which I feel from you for sure. Throughout every single thing you've talked about shooting, that's where you start.
Right.
It's like, dude, let's just make a movie.
That's the thing. As a director, as a producer, whoever is the leading, running the show, people they don't follow orders, they follow enthusiasm.
Yeah.
They follow orders if you're going to pay them. Like, here's your rate, $7.50 a day.
Sure.
Don't shoot whatever the hell you fucking want. Whatever. But when in independent filmmaking, people follow enthusiasm. Now, in that enthusiasm, though, you have to have tenacity. And you can't feel bad about saying, I want to do this. Can you help me do this? And say, let's go. You gotta have tenacity because no one's gonna step up and be like, let me do it for you. You gotta be tenacious, right? You don't have to be an asshole, but you could be tenacious, right? And that's the only way you're ever gonna get stuff done. You gotta kind of move forward. And that's what an entrepreneur does. Get it going, and just try it. Sometimes you're gonna fail, but sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You gotta remember that sometimes you're not gonna fail. You know, and
You might actually not fail.
You might
Is that
actually
crazy?
not fail. You might actually do something.
If I had kids, I
oh my
would tell
God.
them that all the
Yeah,
time.
you know. But that's the thing. My kids see me going for it. They know that I have this breath of life. That, yeah, you know what? I didn't just start working in my 20s and now I'm in whatever. I'm like a successful blah blah blah, and I've got the house and the nice boat, whatever. But I have this journey of just living this life and going after something. I'm running the marathon, not the sprint, you know. And just the kids, they see that and like, it's gonna be okay. Just follow your heart a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
But also you gotta be practical. You gotta keep your job at Universal for 16 years and not be like, I'm a writer. It's like, well, okay, you're a writer living on your friend's couch. You know, it's like you're a writer, you can't even go to Taco Bell because whatever. I've been there living in LA that, you know, like I've got $10. Taco Bell is right down the street. I could spend $3 of it.
Taco Bell is not as cheap as you.
No, at Taco Bell, you can't get what you used to for Taco Bell.
You used to be able to leave with the whole restaurant for $10.
Exactly. I'm just like, I remember I just had my, 3 crunchy tacos and a double decker, and it was just like, that was only like $3.50 or whatever it was. Now it's like
$12,
$13. You're like, God damn it.
Yeah, but hey, what you said about LA, I mean, obviously you kind of moved back there,
Right.
but I had the same epiphany.
Right.
After living there for 7 years, I was like, this isn't serving me.
Right.
All my successes came from being in a community of like-minded, supportive individuals, though I'm grateful I got to meet Cole and some other friends
Right.
who were here. However, that's why I moved back to New Mexico. I was like, I miss the film community. I miss the supportive nature, not the competitive nature.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were talking before we started rolling about that, and where just the different mindsets. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. And like, here we are doing this kind of thing here. Whereas I feel like in LA, it's more ego driven and fear driven. And here it's more like, hey, like, let's build community. Let's meet people. Let's
Yeah, well, see
play
what's
in the sandbox.
the difference is in
like Bryan Cranston would. I heard him in an interview. He's like, it's the big tent, and there's plenty of room to fill it.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like, I don't know.
Because in LA, if we were doing this, the first question that everybody would have asked us is, "Who the fuck are you guys?"
Yeah.
Oh,
What do you do?
How many followers do you guys have?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, I do your podcast that doesn't have any. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And that's what this has been such an amazing experience because everybody is just like, yeah, dude, let's talk about it. Let's talk about film. Let's talk about what we're all here doing.
Right.
Be out of that passion.
Right.
I do think that's a funny thing too. Is coming into this, we were like, well, we hadn't launched any episodes. We recorded a couple, but we haven't launched anything yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're like,
And
oh,
we're
if we
like,
don't have a presence.
like
no
everyone's
one's
gonna be
give us
like,
their
who the fuck are
time.
these guys?
Yeah.
And so far, no one's asked anything. No one's like, well, what is this? Like, how would you guys just start this out? Have you launched it? Like,
Right.
nobody asked. They're like, oh, you want to just talk shop? You want to talk film?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's do it. Why not?
Because again, it's like, I want to make a movie.
Right.
I want to talk about
Right.
movies. I want to do this because I
Right.
love doing it. Let's
Right.
just talk about it.
Right.
So this
Yeah,
is
it just, I mean, you also have to, because you, like, it's the story off the screen, like, it's helping me a lot. It's like therapy, just telling my story again.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's got my story is like, well, some people will be like, well, that doesn't sound, it doesn't matter. That's my story, but I feel it as I share it. It also reminds me of who I am and where I've been and where I'm going. And that's why I'm like, okay, I'm okay. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and for me, it's inspiring
You
to
know.
like see all the different lives and iterations,
Yeah.
and I went from this to that,
Right.
and you're at Universal for
Right.
16 years. That sounds like a dream job to me.
But I remind people of that who work there, like, I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, you
right,
see those people on the
right.
tram, some of those people we kill to be just walking around on the lot doing your job.
yeah.
You work in a movie studio. Every day when I'm there, I try to go walk on the lot, and every day, I'm still so enamored with the magic of working at a movie studio. And I'm so grateful to be working at a place like Universal because, wow, I mean, it's a huge huge, massive corporation and just everybody's doing whatever. But I appreciate it, and that's why it's like, okay, that's why I gotta let it, I don't let whatever my aspirations interfere with that, because that's part of my career as a filmmaker, and also my experience working in the industry, and that's the thing.
Well, we appreciate you being here and talking about it, man, and leading us down that journey.
This has been great. And just one more thing is that, everybody thinks, and me included, in terms of like having that day job. I mean, luckily for you, it is still in film and it is still very proximal, but it's like there's this, this mythos of being the starving artist. And everybody wants to take that on. And it's like, well, I can't have a backup plan. Because if I have a backup plan, then I'm a failure.
Well, that's the thing. And the thing is, what I call is, I was fully confident. I said, and maybe, I don't know, maybe my mother just instilled, and even my father also, very much, probably more than my father, because when I went to film school and I got into the mechanical engineering at RAT, and he's like, "You're not going to go into that? I'll go into robotics." I'm like, "No, I'm going to go into the film department," because my mother was, even though my father was a saxophone player, he was more practical. I was like, "No, I'm going to be a filmmaker." He's like, "God damn it, whatever." My first job to him was working at the airport. I didn't have a job in his eyes until then. But the thing is that plan B. I said it's okay to have work on my solid plan B, which is having a straight job, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of production, though, was the key. It was okay to get out of production, because I knew that, like, I don't need to be on set, because being an AD is not going to get you to be a director.
It's just not. I mean,
it's just not. It's just not.
It'll get you to be a great AD.
Yeah, being a director.
Be an AD,
what we talk about this. Being a director, you want to be a director? Start directing.
Yeah.
That's being a director.
Right.
Whether it's your iPhone or gathering the friends, just have the tenacity to start directing, putting that together. But your plan B, have solid. Don't be afraid to follow your plan B. Your plan A will come.
Yeah.
I do think I am a better director.
Also, don't forget about your plan A.
Because I AD'd.
Right.
But I
Sure.
Yes,
I mean, all of it.
Right.
I also realized, but that's not where I want to.
Right.
That just wasn't my path.
No, being an AD is going to help you be a better director, because now you know the dynamics of timing of everything and just the workings, and it's just what ADs do is just sometimes amazing, and you're like, oh my God, but anything. I mean, being craft service is going to help you be a better producer or whatever, that kind of thing. So, but plan B is, it's okay to have a solid plan B. Don't be afraid to do solid plan B while you're going after plan A. And that's the thing. And also plan B may actually make you a better writer.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Everything is experience.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So there you go.
Man.
Well, it's been unexperienced.
There you go.
You've been so generous with your time, man. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. This has been great.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
But whatever.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what jazzes us up and inspires us and gets us excited. Like, for example, the people that are going to listen, watch this, we identify with the fact that, look, we're also learning and growing. I mean, it's a lifelong process, but right now for us especially, like, we're gaining so much simultaneously from these conversations. We're not experts. We're not, big Hollywood people that are coming to you and having all these celebrity guests. We are the people that are like, let's all learn together. Let's all figure this out together. And that's the energy.
And I think the fun part of doing this at a festival is so much of going to a festival is networking, right?
Right.
But it's like, oh, quick, what's your film? I'll definitely call you.
Yeah.
And what's great about this is we get to take an audience with us.
Right.
Go network, but actually have a place where we can sit down and have almost an hour-long talk.
Yeah.
And actually meet people and hear your story. Whereas if we're at an after party, it's like the quick I gotta meet you.
Yeah.
And I gotta meet you.
I do this.
You don't read
someone your card.
You feel guilty because you're talking to somebody. You look over.
You're like,
I want to go talk to them. But how do I hey man, I can't talk to you for a half hour because I'm only here for an hour and a half. I got to talk to more than 3 people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
so unfortunately we don't get to see a lot of movies because we're doing this,
Yeah.
but I'm grateful we got to see your movie twice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Both
Yeah.
with technical difficulties and then in a
Well,
great
we were
theater.
allowed, yeah, we had to
Oh, yeah.
watch it standing room only in the back in a secret.
Oh my
booth.
God, that was a great screening.
Yeah,
No,
that
it was
was
beautiful.
amazing.
The Jacques
Yeah.
Couture's
Oh,
quality
yeah,
was
that
great.
was- yeah.
But we got there because we were late for dinner. We got to our own debut, and they wouldn't let us in the theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so they were kicking
That's
kicking
classic.
people out of the
Yeah,
out of the
Yes,
out of the aisles.
Jonah, who has the creature film,
Oh, that's right.
they were
that's-
like, "Hey, you can watch your film and then get the fuck out."
right.
Like, basically, they're
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
very
yeah,
nice about
yeah.
it. But and I also was like, well, I made
Yeah.
the movie. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've never watched it with an audience, but I'd
But
like
that's
to.
the thing you want to see with it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
I was even like, well, I don't need to sit down, but I do want to look in the
Yeah,
back
exactly.
of our heads. I want
Yeah.
I want to hear the breathing. I
Yeah.
want to hear this and that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's just all these different things. You know, I mean, my film doesn't have shocking moments like your guys, like your stuff. It was
We had
like
a few
it's like,
people kind
no.
of get up and leave, which is fine. That's all right.
Well, no, but sometimes
it's
people
not for
just
everybody.
can't handle
Right.
certain moments
Sure,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Right.
When you're having like real relationship moments, it's like, oh, that's hard, you know, whatever else. You know?
Yeah, and when you're in like a slot like ours where
Yeah.
we have some very tender movies,
Right.
and then ours is a little bit more action and
Right.
you know,
Very
there's
in your
a-
face with some.
Yeah,
The first frame is the giving a baby away for 2 bottles of water, and then so
Yeah,
the
we
earlier
lost- we
screening.
lost a few
Yeah,
people.
the earlier screening. I think it was like at 1:30 or 1:45 at the Hilton, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of people that were maybe in their late 70s or even early 80s that were there earlier. And man, once our film came on,
They didn't like
it
that.
was like
Yeah.
boop boop boop.
Yeah.
You know, people. This one guy in front of us, him and his wife, and he, you know, it takes him a while to get up, and it's in the, and we're literally we're the
He's a big
filmmakers,
old man.
and he's just. Well, all the film's going on, and we're just like, okay,
Yeah, there you go.
okay, he's still
that.
there, he's still, and he's out. Okay,
Yeah, is he gonna fart in my face?
I think if he knew we were the filmmakers, he might have.
Oh, they wouldn't have cared. They would have just gone up there. At that point, they're like nobody. They don't have to apologize for anything.
Oh no, I think he would
Yeah,
have
but I
farted in
get
my
it, yeah.
face if he knew we were the
Oh, yeah,
filmmakers.
that's right.
yeah, he's like, nah, I don't like it. His wife stayed though,
Oh, really?
His wife
or
did
the
stay.
woman he was
I don't
with.
know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. But no, yeah. Anyway, grateful that we got to be paired in the same group of shorts, so we got to meet you.
No, that's cool, man.
Spend a little
I
more
feel
time.
grateful
Yes.
across the board just to be here and have you guys to have me here and just talk about it. I love to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever else. And next time, I would love to be on a podcast where we want to talk about independent distribution.
Yeah, so I mean,
That's the thing that people are like,
Yes.
getting movies is made
Well, that's
easy.
what I wanna
compared
get to, too.
How do you get it seen?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
outside.
Maybe we can arrange
you know, and that's
a follow-up at some point,
Right.
you know.
Like
a little
over
down the
Zoom
road.
yeah,
or
over Zoom
we've
or
done
just
stuff
whatever.
like that.
We can even do a phone call. It's a podcast, whatever you want to
Yeah,
do.
sounds great.
Yeah, because we got into it on the very first episode we
Yeah.
shot.
He uses
about
that in air quotes because we don't know which
Yeah.
one we're probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever the
this
first
isn't
episode
really-
the first thing that we actually
Yeah.
did
Right.
was talking to a friend of ours, but it was very much the conversation was entirely about, okay, digital.
Right.
Do you release it digitally,
Right.
AVOD,
Right.
all these other things
Sure,
that
yeah,
are
all
happening right now?
TVOD, AVOD, blah,
Yeah,
whatever,
and it's like, what does this look
yeah.
like?
Yeah.
What is because the industry
Yeah.
is changing,
Right.
For sure,
Right.
The classic
Right,
method is
right.
like, you know, I don't know. It's not like YouTube's new, but right. But it's like
people,
this
it's
idea
just-
of distribution,
Right.
is huge.
Yeah, it's about you have too many options, and it's about how do you. Most filmmakers don't want to be businessmen.
Yeah,
They just want to be artists.
yeah.
Yep.
And guess what? You could do that, but then don't expect to make any money and make a career, make a living at it.
Right,
And that's the thing.
or you give that to somebody else to be like, oh, I don't know how to do
Right.
it, you do it, and then they screw
I-
you over
I
because they
have
have all the power.
a position that's no one's has ever, and I worked for a producer, like when I first moved to LA, and I met her in Boston, and then so I worked for her in LA, just getting like, she would pay me being her PA on the side, and she was short, and I was doing all the marketing for her, getting her short film out to film festivals and doing whatever, and I said, you know what I'm doing is, and I was starting to, like, can I do this? She's like, oh my God, that'd be great. I was creating what I call an exhibition producer. And every film should have there's a producer, but an exhibition producer that is all about exposure and getting it seen and
Absolutely.
getting it out there. There's selling the movie, and then there's getting it seen, but also selling the movie, an exhibition producer. And I think there's a producer of the movie, and then the exhibition producer that could be involved during production, but really is more from day one, all about how do we sell it. Let them focus on
that's smart.
that.
That's a really
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
super
and then just start calling it that, and everybody find that person, go to the colleges, find the grad school marketing people, bring them in, so they don't I think that scene should be like, shut up.
Yeah.
That's
That's not your job.
Exactly. But you just get people that know how to sell.
Yeah.
Let them do that and get them from the ground, and that's it. So.
All right, well, that's going to be part 2.
There you go.
Yeah, follow up.
Once again, this is Breaking Indie. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. This is really awesome. And let's maybe end this episode now, I guess. Nice. That's
That was awesome.